Hey team, Yasin here, and in this training, we're going to be going over what is coaching. So we're going to go ahead and answer that question. And so just as a reminder, what we are doing inside of this module and what we are doing inside of this training is that we are continuing our understanding of the foundations of the importance of coaching and what coaching actually is and why it's important for you inside of your remote wellness practice. So let's go ahead and answer the $1,000,000 question. What is coaching? So here's the thing. When most people think of coaching, they think of a sports coach, right? They think of some guy with a whistle, with a stopwatch that's kind of pushing people and motivating them and that kind of stuff, okay? And the reason why people think this is because they've never actually experienced what a coach is in other areas of their life. Typically, okay? And so the truth is that a coach is someone who helps anyone overcome any obstacles in life within any area of life. And so yes, you can have a coach in any of the 4 areas of life, whether that be health, wealth, relationships, or something greater. And so some students, as you are listening to me right now, might be nodding your head because you've experienced what it's like in order to be able to have a coach in other areas of life as well. Now, a common thing that a lot of people confuse though, when they first hear about the word coaching and something that they might not be familiar with is understanding the difference between teaching, coaching, mentorship, and advice. And so what we're going to do here right now for a few minutes is we're going to go ahead and dive into very briefly what the difference between teaching, coaching, mentorship, and advice actually is. And so when we talk about teaching, what teaching is really all about broadening the student's knowledge and filling in the gaps in their understanding, right? What they're doing is they're learning through new knowledge. That's what the student is doing, right? And the teaching starts with the curriculum from the teacher, and it's usually an agenda that is held by the teacher. And what it does is it forces the client or the student to go through steps in a certain way, okay? That, on the other hand, is different than coaching, because coaching helps the student implement the knowledge and overcome obstacles that arise in the process and helping students stretch themselves outside of their comfort zone, okay? And so learning is through action rather than only through new knowledge. And so coaching starts with the client or the student. The agenda is held by the client or student. And if a client or student doesn't need to start with chapter 1, then the coach can literally throw the book out the window and just focus on what the client or the student needs, okay? And so coaching allows the client or the students to be able to look within themselves and turn ideas into action. And so coaching focuses more on the transformation element of things. And coaching uses open-ended questions in order to help bridge the gap for the client or student between what they know and what they do, right? It's meant for them to be able to discover what holds them back internally, okay? Now, all of this is different than mentorship. Now, even though mentorship uses a similar skill set to coaching, what it is it's really in the context of a long-term relationship, right? And it's usually a little bit more informal than a teaching or a coaching relationship. And then finally, we have advice, and advice is offered by a friend or a family member or something like that. And good advice is often free and freely given, and it's also freely not taken. And so that is the reason why advice is different than mentorship, is different than coaching, and is different than teaching, okay? And so that is why what you need to understand is that what you are doing for your students by being a coach is different than what traditional and formal education is doing. Because in traditional education, all they do is teach. There is no component of coaching, right? In which students are able to actually implement the knowledge and actually overcome the obstacles. That is the reason why school has failed to actually teach skills in order to help coach people through skills. And so what's happening is that coaching is actually the vehicle in which students and clients undergo their transformation. Because here's the truth. Your clients and students do not need more information. We've talked about this a lot in previous trainings, right? They already have too much information, okay? And so they are already overwhelmed with the amount of information that is on the internet. They do not need more of this. This poor girl in every single picture about too much information. We keep using the image, right? They are overwhelmed with too much information. And so if you try to become the human Google and just give information to your students, then what you have to understand is that what you are doing is nothing more than a commodity. And guess what? In business, selling commodities is just a race to the bottom in terms of pricing, because what you are doing is you are trying to sell something that is already readily available for a cheap price. In the case of information, it's free on the internet. And so when you do that, you cannot pull those high ticket prices of $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000. It's not going to happen, okay? Because you are trying to be the human Google, and your student whose brain is on fire knows that it's a commodity for information. And so instead, what you are doing when you are coaching as a remote wellness practitioner is you are helping coach your students through their transformation. Now, does that mean that there's going to be no knowledge teaching that is going to happen? Of course there is. There is going to be new knowledge, information, and new knowledge that is being taught, right? However, it is not going to happen in the human Google type of way, okay? What you are doing when we talk about new knowledge and new information is that what you are doing is you are curating, aka selecting and organizing that knowledge for your students and for their specific situation. If they need just blanket information that has no context to them, they could have Googled that, right? But the value in the coaching and the value of you as a remote wellness practitioner is in the coaching relationship in which that knowledge and that information is curated for their specific situation. And so coaching equals curated applicable knowledge, okay? And curated knowledge is three things. It's relevant, it's teachable, aka small chunks, and it's actionable. That's what it means in order to have curated knowledge, okay? Because knowledge and information in general, hey, sure, it's on Wikipedia, it's on YouTube, it's on Google. But when we talk about remote wellness practice and having your own curated knowledge for your students, this is what it is that we are talking about. There is a system, there is a path, there is an end goal. It's not overwhelm of information. And so ultimately what you have to understand is that coaching is 80% transformation and 20% information. I'm going to say that again. Coaching is 80% transformation and 20% information. And so yes, there is going to be teaching and information involved, but the bigger job is the support and the guidance through the transformation and through the becoming process. Because like we have talked about many times in the past, that gap is where the true value of remote wellness is. And so coaching is not about being perfect and knowing the answers. It's about being curious and asking the right questions. Because good coaches in their coaching sessions ask questions that help students uncover their underlying reasons for keeping themselves stuck. And so you are going to learn what those questions are and how to ask those questions throughout this module, so that way you can become an amazing coach. Now, after hearing that, some students might come and say, "Coach, I got to become a coach? I can't do that. That sounds too fancy. I'm not that type of person. I'm an imposter, right? I'm just pretending. I don't know what the heck I'm going to be doing." Well, guess what? We're actually going to be addressing imposter syndrome in an upcoming module. But for now, this is what I want you to know. The most important attribute of any coach is that they want to help the person that they are coaching, period. Because what a good coach does is a good coach does not see themselves as an expert who is able to fix all problems, and they do not see themselves as somebody who has all of the answers. Instead, they see themselves as someone who is supporting the learning process. They are supporting the person that they are coaching through the process of learning. And the beautiful thing about coaching is that coaching is not something that you learn only in order to be able to make a career or money. No. You can learn to be a coach in any domain of life, okay? Do you know somebody that is a mother, a father, an older brother, an older sister, a friend, right? All of those can be coaches in their own domains of life, so long as they learn how to do it properly, right? There are so many people who want to be a father, who want to be a mother, who are a mother, who are a father, who are an older brother, and are an older sister, whatever it might be, and they don't understand the principles of coaching. They don't understand the skill set of coaching. They don't understand how to support the person that is looking to them for guidance. And so as a result, they're not able to handle that mantle of responsibility properly. And so what I want you to understand is that coaching is a universal skill that helps anyone and everyone who learns the skill set of coaching. And so this is what this module is going to provide for you, with the foundational skills for you to become a master coach in every domain of your life. How cool is that, right? How cool is that what you are learning inside of this module is going to radically transform many, 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 if not all other areas of your life, because you are going to learn the principles and the foundations of what it means to be an amazing coach. And so ultimately, the biggest mindset shift that I need you to understand and the biggest mindset shift that I want to facilitate for you to be able to have is I need you to understand that coaching is a skill. It's a what? It's a skill. And what that means is that it has to be learned. It's not something that you are born knowing how to do. And so just like learning the skill of how to ride a bike or tie your shoes, you can learn the skill of how to coach. And remember what the definition of a skill is, right? A skill is knowledge times repetition, knowledge times experience, knowledge times putting in the work to repeat it over and over and over again with the knowledge that you have in order to be able to acquire that skill. Okay. Now, the question that you might have after hearing that is, if coaching is a skill, why is it important for me in my remote wellness practice? Well, that's an amazing question. And so that's what I want to touch base on right now, which is, why is coaching so important for me in my remote wellness practice? Because here's what you have to understand. Without coaching, what is going to happen when you actually try to provide transformation to someone is this. They are not going to be receptive of what it is that you are saying. What's going to happen is this. They are going to interpret what it is that you are saying as an attack, as an overwhelm, okay? And so what you need to understand is that your students, your clients, if you don't understand the skill set of coaching, are going to ghost you and are going to think that you are trying to be the human Google, okay? And so this is why learning how to coach and learning to be a coach is so important, right? Maybe you've heard people say that, hey, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Although this is not 100% accurate, because obviously what you say matters a lot as well, the point is very clear. The how you say something actually matters a lot. And so what you got to understand is that what you say and how you say are both parts of the equation, okay? And so to connect this concept to what it is that we've learned so far, we learned all about the what when we actually put together our toolbox as a remote wellness practitioner in Module 3, right? And we also said that we're going to learn how to structure that in Module 5, right? That is the what. Okay, we learned all of the toolbox and we learned about what is going to happen, and we're going to structure all of that in Module 5. But what about the how, right? How do we actually deliver the words? How do we actually do that in a way that when we are speaking, the person actually listens to us? And so what you have to understand is that inside of this toolbox from Module 5, you have so many transformational tools that you can teach people so that way they can thrive in this new modern world, right? We have so many of these skills that we've learned. But the question is, how do you deliver that? AKA the words that are said, so that way people will listen. And that is what we call coaching skills, right? We talked about this in the previous training. It is the capsule within which you are packaging those tools, how you say those tools, how you say that information, how you say that knowledge that actually contributes and facilitates the transformation process as a coach and a remote wellness practitioner. And so ultimately the question you might ask after that is, okay, well, what are these coaching skills, right? What are these coaching skills that allow somebody to become a coach so that way our students will actually listen and follow instructions? And so that's what I want to go ahead and talk to you about is, what are the skills of coaching? Because even though we say that coaching is a skill and we put kind of like, hey, coaching by itself is like one skill. The truth is that coaching is more of what we call a skill stack, okay? What is a skill stack? You can imagine a skill stack is kind of like a bucket of skills that all come together in order to make a skill stack. And so the skill of coaching is actually made up of a number of other skills, and that's how we get the skill stack, the bucket of coaching, right? And so we talk about conscious listening, paraphrasing and verbal mirroring, curious exploration, matching, setting meaningful goals, creating and designing action steps, right? Transformational question sequences, reframing, trusting yourself, tonality, bringing thoughts into reality, transformational vocabulary, right? And so what we have to understand is that the skill of coaching is made up of many individual skills that come together in order to create that bucket, which is the skill of coaching. I hope that makes sense, okay? And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using these skills in order to deliver the medicine, the words that we say. That is how we deliver this medicine, which is the transformation, the skills, the knowledge, and the information. And so the question that might come up after that is, hey, why is this module called the art of transformation, right? What does art have to do with any of this? What does the Mona Lisa have to do with any of this? So here's what you got to understand. Coaching is the art piece of this entire process, right? It's not something that you can measure quantifiably always, but it's the way that something is presented, right? There are the words that are said, and then there are how the words are delivered, okay? And so you can count the words and you can count the letters, but how is it that is actually delivered? That's not always easily measured. And so that's why we call it an art, because there's not always a right or wrong answer, but there is a process, there is a foundation, and that's what you're going to be learning. You're going to be learning the foundations of this art of coaching, right? And so that's exactly what it is that we're talking about. When we talk about the art of coaching, is just another word for the skills of coaching. And so that's ultimately what we talk about, is when we say the beauty of learning coaching is that these are the same skills, like we talked about. These are the same skills that make up the bucket of skills of coaching that you are going to be able to use in every other area of your life. Because once you learn the skills of coaching, you are going to not only be able to use these skills as a remote wellness practitioner inside of your remote wellness practice in order to make $10,000 plus per month online. That's not it. These are also the same skills that you are going to use as a parent, as a friend, as a spouse, as a partner. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is why remote wellness is such an amazing profession. Because not only are we helping others through their transformation, but as we go through our own professional transformation, we are also going through our own personal transformation. And so in other words, you are on your own personal growth journey while you are helping others live their best selves. And honestly, what could be better than that? And that is the reason why remote wellness and becoming a remote wellness practitioner is honestly the greatest and best career ever. I have done a lot of things in my past. I've run a lot of different businesses. I have never found anything that is not only as lucrative as this business model, but also as fulfilling as becoming a remote wellness practitioner. And so the thing to keep in mind is that when we talk about these coaching skills, right, even though these are the skills, you always have to remember that when we talk about these amazing skills that universally apply, it is important to remember the definition of a skill. The definition of a skill is knowledge times reps. And so in this module, you are going to learn the knowledge piece of these skills, but without the experience, without the reps, you will never actually acquire the skills, right? You only have the knowledge of it, which is only half the equation, okay? And so what are you going to do? How are you going to actually practice all of this so that way inside of this module, you can acquire these skills? Well, that's a great question. And that's where I want to go ahead and introduce you to the skills sessions. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk right now about the skill sessions and what the skill sessions are. So the skill sessions are basically an activity in which you are actually going to be practicing the skills that you learned. And so we said knowledge times reps equals skill. And so the knowledge is going to be in the trainings, and then the reps is going to be inside of the skill sessions, which is then going to allow you to be able to acquire that specific skill. And so just because you go through this module and get the knowledge of it, right, you still need some way to be able to put those reps and acquire those coaching skills. And so that is why inside of this module, we are going to have these specific activities that are called skills sessions. So you can see here, here's an example, skills session number 1, listening and exploring, in which we are practicing these 2 specific coaching skills, okay? Now what I want to do is I want to briefly talk to you very quickly about why skill sessions are very important, because I want you to take them seriously and I want you to value them, okay? So 3 reasons. Number 1, the very first reason why skill sessions are so important is because knowledge without practice is meaningless. The reason we do skill sessions is because you cannot learn to coach or what it is like to coach without actually doing it, okay? That'd be like watching a guy on the X Games and the X Game athletes doing a backflip on a bike, right? On the TV, you're watching them on YouTube or whatever, and you say, you know what? Maybe I can't do a backflip on a bike, but you know what? Just by watching these guys like ride a bike very masterfully, I should be able to at least ride a bike, no problem, even though I've never actually tried and even though I've never actually done it, right? And so you have to understand that watching it and doing it are 2 completely different things, okay? You really don't know how to ride a bike until you're out there on the bike trying to balance and learn, okay? And so it's the same thing with coaching. You really don't know how to do it until you actually do it. And so that is the very first reason why these skill sessions are so important, so that way you can actually experience what it's like in order to be a coach. The second reason The second reason why these skill sessions are so important is because we learn best when we teach. This is a scientific fact that has been proven over and over and over again. We retain 90% of what we learn when we teach it to somebody else and use it immediately. And so when you do these skill sessions, what's going to happen is that you are going to be teaching, you are going to be practicing, and you are going to be learning all at the same time. And so scientifically proven, it is the best of all worlds. And then finally, the third reason why these skill sessions are so important is because inside of these skill sessions, what's going to happen is you are going to get to experience the other side of being an RWP, because you're actually going to experience what it's like to be coached by a remote wellness practitioner. And so yes, for half of each training, you are actually going to get coached. You're going to be on the other side of someone coaching you. And so that means that you're going to get to work on your own personal growth and transformation at the same time that you get coached by somebody else. And so it's going to be an absolute win-win. And so that is the third reason why these skill sessions are so important inside of this module. Now, what about how these skill sessions are divided? Okay, so these skill sessions are going to be divided because there are going to be 4 skill sessions total in this module, okay? And then each of the skills from the coaching skill stack are going to be grouped together in order to make up a skills session, okay? And so you can see here, conscious listening, curious exploration, that is going to be skill session number 1. Paraphrasing and verbal mirroring and matching, skill session 2. Setting meaningful goals and empowered action steps, skill session 3. And then transformational question sequences and reframing is going to be skill session number 4, okay? And then the last 4 skills out of the total 12 foundational skills inside of the skill stack, they are not going to have skill sessions because they are the type of skill that they really are only the knowledge component of it. There's not so much practice with it. It's more of like a mindset understanding of how to use these skills, okay? So these other 4 skills are not going to have skill sessions with them. And so when we talk about how these skill sessions are divided, that is exactly how these skill sessions are divided, okay? Now, the other question that might come up, well, how are these skill sessions actually going to work? Well, for each of these skill sessions, what you're going to be doing is you are going to be partnering up with another student inside of the Remote Wellness Academy program, and you are going to go through a specific exercise that is going to be outlined for you within every single one of these skills sessions, okay? And then each of those exercises will allow you and your partner each in order to practice the skills for that specific session. And so half the time you're going to be a coach and the other half of the time you're going to be a client or a student, okay? Each session is going to be timed so that way it is respectful for everybody, so that way we're not going overboard on time. And then the details of how to do the skill sessions, what software to use, how to record it, how to submit it, all of that is going to actually be discussed inside of the skills session training later on inside of the module. So I would urge you, I promise you these are very fun. Do not make judgment on something that you have only learned the overview of it. And so don't be like, oh, I don't want to do this. Oh, what's going to happen? No. Please don't be like that. Don't be a student who puts on the failure uniform. I would urge you. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be very fun. It's going to be very exciting. And so you are going to be able to do this. Don't worry. I'm an introvert as well. I don't preferably like to talk to people all the time, but I promise you this is going to be valuable and this is going to allow you to be able to break your version 1.0 character and start to identify as a coach. Now, next up, as we start to close out this entire training, I do want to go ahead and talk to you right now about self-coaching, okay? Because a question that some students might have is coaching only about helping others? And that's a great question, because here's a very cool mindset shift that I want to help you make, is that these coaching skills that we are talking about, okay, that you are learning that are going to help you in every area of your life, okay? The cool thing about that is that you can actually use these same coaching skills, the ones that you would use in order to help others, you can actually turn them around and you can actually use them on yourself. That's very interesting, right? And so the cool thing about this, Coach Yassine, what are you saying? Of course, we got to bring the cat back, right? You heard me right. Throughout this module, when applicable, the cool thing about this is that I'm going to be making suggestions to you about how you can actually use these skills in order to actually use them on yourself. And so remember that pill that we talked about in order to actually deliver transformation, the transformation medicine to your students and your clients, right? We talked about the coaching skills, right? How cool would it be if you could actually deliver that medicine to yourself by coaching yourself. And so that's one of the cool things when you learn these coaching skills is that yes, having an external accountability source as a coach, it's invaluable. Don't get me wrong. You can always have that and it's extremely valuable. But when you learn these coaching skills and you can actually use these coaching skills on yourself, by yourself, it becomes extremely, extremely, extremely useful and extremely powerful. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call self-coaching. I know when you first think about it, you're like, wow, that's pretty cool. I promise you it's going to be even more cool and even more applicable as we go through this module. And so that's exactly what we're going to be covering inside of parts of this module as well. And you are really going to uncover why learning these coaching skills is so foundational and fundamental for everyone. It does not matter if someone is not trying to become a remote wellness practitioner, if someone is not trying to make $10,000 a month online. What I'm telling you is that these coaching skills are just foundational life skills. They're just foundational skills on how to be able to overcome obstacles, whether that be helping other people overcome those obstacles, or whether that be helping you yourself by yourself overcome obstacles as well. So that way you can coach yourself through the obstacles of life. It's so foundational and so fundamental and so important. And I'm super excited to share that with you throughout this module as well. So strap in. It's only going to continue getting better from here. Now, on that note, final thing that I do want to go ahead and touch base with you here inside of this training is I do want to go ahead and talk to you about deepening your why. Because as we start to close out this training, as we start to actually get into the module, I do want to just go ahead and make a quick side note on your why, right? Because the thing is that you've gotten so far into the program, and it's very important to make sure that you have a strong connection with your why. Otherwise, you're not going to make it to the end of this program, right? And so what I want you to do is I want you to think back to your why underneath the why, right? We talked about this in module 3. We also talked about this in module 2, okay? What I want you to do is before you start this module, I want you to take a second to remind yourself, why do I want to become a remote wellness practitioner, right? Why is this important for me, okay? I want you to go ahead and keep that in mind. And then now that you have why it's so important for you to actually do this, what you are going to do is you are going to make a dedicated effort to share your why with someone who is actually in your real world. I'm not talking about like virtual in the student community. That's awesome. But the power of sharing it with somebody who is in your actual real world is so extremely powerful. And I'm going to go ahead and give you a couple very solid reasons of why you should share your why, okay? I'm going to give you 3 reasons in particular so that way you can be convinced on this and you can actually do it. The very first reason that I'm going to go ahead and make to you of why it's important to share your why to somebody in your actual real world is because of the fact that it's so critical to create a support system for your success inside of this program, okay? We all need people to support our goals and aspirations, okay? Oftentimes when we are going after our goals and aspirations, it can feel very lonely. And I'm telling you, unless you have a very good support system, yes, obviously we are here to support you. Yes, we are here to hold you accountable. Yes, we are here to make sure that we can get you to the end of this program. But unless you have a good support system in your real world, in your personal life, it is going to be very difficult for you to get through this program. So if you share your why and you let other people in your real world know what it is that you are up to, what is going to happen is that something very magical is going to happen. What is going to happen 9 times out of 10 is that it is going to inspire other people in your world. And guess what? The beautiful, amazing thing about being a remote wellness practitioner is that you are able to inspire people in order to be better. And so if you are struggling with just sharing in your real world with other people and being able to inspire them, then you are going to struggle when you become a remote wellness practitioner. So you can kind of imagine this as practice, okay? And so what you're going to do is you're going to share with other people your why. And what's going to happen is it's going to inspire them, okay? Now, for some of you, it might feel scary to even think about that. But the truth is that when you talk to others about what you are doing in your life, what it does is it inspires others to go after what it is that they want in their life. That person starts to think to themselves, wow, if this person who is in my life is doing this and they have such a powerful reason of why they are doing this, maybe I should start going after what I want also, right? It's very, very, very inspirational. It's very, very magical when you actually do this in real life. However, some students, when we actually urge them and recommend that they do this, they might say, but Coach Yasin, what about those people in my life that put me down? They don't support me what I'm doing. They make me feel bad about what I'm doing. Here's the thing. This is what I want you to understand about haters and those people who actually don't want you to succeed. If you have people in your life that are hating, It's because they feel confronted by the fact that what you are doing in your life is you are going after what it is that you want and they are not. And so instead of dealing with that, instead of dealing with their own emotions and their own guilt around that, what they do is they try to make you feel bad so that way you will stop going after what it is that you want. So that way they will stop feeling bad, okay? And so they want to make you feel bad so that way they no longer have to feel bad, okay? And so they don't want to think about why they are not going after what it is they want. They would just rather do the shortcut and make you feel bad instead, okay? And so even though they might not be doing it on purpose, at the end of the day, that is what's happening. And so it's a them problem, it's not a you problem. But I promise you, 9 times out of 10, that fear that you have in your mind that others won't support you, I promise you, you will absolutely be surprised when you actually share what is on your mind. And that fear is only in your mind, okay? So too often we think, oh no, if I share what I'm up to, XYZ won't be supportive, XYZ will be jealous, XYZ, right? But here's the truth. You'll never know unless you try. And so that is why it's so important for you to make sure that you share your why to your immediate circle, because that is reason number 1, is creating that support system in your actual life, okay? Reason number 2 is you're going to be able to integrate what it is that you learned, right? Just like we talked about. When you actually learn, when you actually teach, when you actually practice, you learn better. And so when you actually start teaching people in your inner circle what it is that you are learning, guess what? You can even just share it just with one person, but it's going to help you integrate what it is that you are learning. Hey, go talk to your husband, go talk to your wife, go talk to your kids, go talk to your family, go talk to your friends, whoever it is. Just open up your why and what it is that you are learning. And then finally, reason number 3 is that it is going to help deepen the relationship. And so another reason is that even if it's not somebody new that you're sharing with, what you are doing is when you get out of your comfort zone and more regularly share what it is that you are learning inside of this program, you're giving somebody the opportunity to know you better and get to know the real you better. And so the bottom line of all of this, again, this is just a quick note that I wanted to spend a couple minutes touching base on, is I want to go ahead and encourage you to share your why, to open up with others in your real world what it is that you are learning and why is it that you are doing it. I promise you, it is going to create a support system like you have never had before, and you are going to be so happy that you did it. Awesome. So with that being said, as a final closing note, as we close out this training here, before we close out this training, I do want to go ahead and talk to you about giving credit where credit is due before we actually get into the module. This is very important for me. There are so many people that throughout the last decade have really influenced my understanding on coaching skills, and what it means to be a good coach. I myself have been blessed to have the amazing privilege and the honor to have been coached by amazing individuals. Credit to Dr. Trevor Kashey, Huggy McNiff, Kerry Peters, Dr. Lane Norton, Stacey Morgenstern, Anthony Robbins, Adi, Hillary, Dr. Andrew Huberman, so many more. I'm sure there are many others that I am forgetting, but I just did want to go ahead and give credit where credit is due. Throughout this module, I will do my best to try and cite as many places as possible. However, many of the concepts do come from multiple places and multiple sources, and many of them I have built upon myself. However, that is the reason why I wanted to go ahead and start off this module by giving credit where credit is due. Again, I apologize if there are so many others that I am forgetting, but that is what I wanted to go ahead and mention here in this closing note as we start to close out this training and get into the actual module. And then finally, your engagement question for this specific training. What you are going to do, as always, some sentence starters for you. Right here, you want to fill in the blank. I thought this training was blank, right? What is coaching? You learned a lot about what coaching is. I thought this training was blank. This training for me was blank. Number 2, what did you like and enjoy about this training? And what were some of your biggest takeaways or ahas from this training? Again, remember, we love to hear from you, and it really does help cement inside of your mind what it is that you are learning. And then finally, the action steps for this specific training. There are going to be 3 of them, okay? Really simple. Number 1, watch and study this training in full. Number 2, complete the engagement questions for this training, the ones that we talked about above. And then number 3, this is not going to be activity. It's not going to be something that's mandatory, but I do want to go ahead and urge you to share what you are doing in the remote wellness program and why you are doing it with one person in your life. And bonus points if that can be a new person in your life, right? Hit up your brother and sister, your, XYZ, whoever, somebody you haven't talked to. If you can do that, phenomenal. If not, maybe it's somebody that already knows that you are inside of the Remote Wellness Academy program, but you decide to share with them what it is that you are learning. Hey, go out there and talk to them. What is coaching? Go ahead and talk to them about what it is that you learned inside of this training. Okay, so those are the 3 action steps for this training. What is coaching? I'm super excited to hop into the actual module and talk about the coaching skills. With that being said, this is Coach Yasin checking out. I will talk to you inside of the next training.